Big yawn.
Big yawn to start the interview.
Oh, dear, dear.
Welcome,
Those
Tony.
things are comfy.
I know, exactly. That's all right. Welcome back to our third instalment.
Yeah, thank you. I wonder how long they're going on for.
Well, who knows?
I enjoy them.
Good. So, do you think we've sort of decided on talking about reflections? Obviously, we've been talking about your book, My Wings of Destiny, and your adventures.
Yeah, but they're only a portion. I'd quite like to sort of dwell on a couple of things. Relationships, and not necessarily intimate relationships, but just relationships. And also, I'd like to think about judgments. I had an experience over the weekend. I had some friends around who are travellers, and I said they could use my facility to mend a hole in the roof of their van. So they came round, and they are real travellers, and they look rough. There you are, a judgment. They look rough.
What could be considered as, yeah.
Well, they look, my daughter called them gypsies, but they're just travellers. And when you get to know them, they're really nice guys. But then there's the neighbour staring at them and saying, you know, what are you doing here? If you hang around much longer, I'm going to call the police. And there he is making a judgment. So when we look at people, how do we judge them? Do we judge them by appearance, what they say, how they behave? It's all things that we put together. And the two, judgments of others and relationships, actually go together, because whether it's just a friendship relationship or a loving relationship, we still tend to make judgments. And I realize that I'm 80 and I seek a female in my life, but realize that the ladies I talk to actually look at men and judge them physically. So that's me out of the window.
So they're looking for a physical attraction rather than a spiritual, emotional.
And it isn't what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that. Good looks would be nice, but I'm also looking for a mind and a personality that I can communicate with and relate to and understand and have interesting discussions with. Otherwise, a relationship is a bit empty. If all you base it on is your material possessions, and many relations are.
Yeah.
Yes, the physical comes into it, but I'm friends with lots of people, lots of women, and
so like marriages of convenience and things.
Yes, and that's wrong. That's not how it should be. A marriage should be two people getting really close in every respect, so that not just physically but mentally.
Like the threefold human,
yeah.
Mentally, spiritually, yeah.
They all bond each other, and they all go together. But I think so many relationships actually just tend to leave great portions of that out. Gosh, she looks good, or gosh, he looks muscular and handsome. Don't judge by that, because it's pretty superficial.
Yeah. And you know, that's all conditioned by
media. Society plays this game.
Yeah.
You watch television and you look at the adverts, and they're all geared around completion of a relationship by various fatuous means.
So a means to an end, or getting to the end before you've even begun.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I mean that people are not looking for the bonding of the humanity, the spirit. They're just looking for the bonding of the material and the physical, and that's it. And everything else is just immaterial. Well, it shouldn't be, because with the mental part of a relationship being strong and understanding, you actually overcome many of the problems that the other sort of relationship would encounter. Because when you're mentally in tune, you can communicate with each other. And so how many marriages just don't communicate?
Yeah.
How many relationships do not communicate?
And that's very much to do with busy lives and being on the
It's society.
It's society.
But we allow it, and we don't have to allow it.
No, but I think things have slowed down during lockdown and people have become more aligned with their natural rhythms and perhaps reconnected.
Some have, but there's
some
also...
have, and there's also some that have highlighted these issues.
Yes, very much so.
But that's got to be a gift ultimately, eventually.
If we take it while it's offered, because in the wings are people waiting to snatch all of that off us. It's very temporary unless we go with the flow and take it into our...
Take the reins,
yes.
Yeah, take momentum with this, yeah.
I kind of fear that it's not going to happen that people are taking it on. There are more and more people acknowledging that we are offered a choice as things stand at the moment, with having a change in the way the world is run, our lives are run, and the way society is going. But there's also pressure from the top to maintain the status quo. And it suits the status quo to have people making judgments about each other, especially if you're saying someone who doesn't approve of wearing a mask, then it gets turned against you.
That divide and conquer kind of.
Yes. Well,
do you feel that's
definitely the psychological game that's being played by
there's a lot of
authority at the present moment in time. You're not a good citizen if you don't wear a mask.
Yeah.
It's just a game, and we're being played.
So ultimately, though, we do not have any control over anybody else's thoughts and processes, only our own. So would it be more beneficial to think about aligning with people that think like
that's what I tend to do.
Yeah.
But it isn't always possible.
No.
Lifestyles, circumstances, financial, economic, mental, they all take control of where our lives are going. But we need to take control of where our lives are going. And at the present moment, we've lost what little control we had.
Or is it actually a great levelling going on? So that...
No, I don't think so.
We're levelling down. Currently, we're at a stage at that, but ultimately, this process that we're in will get us back to an egalitarian.
I kind of see that as optimism.
Well, it's good though to remain optimistic, isn't it?
Yes, but it's also good to be a realist.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm more of a realist than an optimist.
But it is a possibility just as much as it could all go horribly wrong. But
if people would get together and communicate with each other. We're very bad at communicating with each other. And that's all down about relationships.
So this is going back to the relationship, and being authentic.
Yeah.
And
the expression "be true to yourself" is totally valid at this present moment in time. And a lot of people aren't being true to themselves. Through force of circumstance, they're scared, they feel under pressure, and they feel under pressure from other people. And other people are making judgments about them when they don't follow the herd. So very much the push is to encourage us to follow the herd and be part of the herd. In fact, that wonderful expression, herd immunity, that the government came up with.
Yeah, you did do a post, didn't you, this morning about Stockholm syndrome?
Yes.
Yeah. So there is that element to it, that if you're over conditions, which is what we see through schooling, that we're all conditioned to conform and can be compliant. And
well, virtually every aspect of life is forcing us to be compliant. Everything, the law,
orchestrated,
education,
the man-made orchestrated world.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to overturn that a bit and make people think for themselves, act for themselves, be themselves, and not be afraid to stand up and say, well, I just think this is wrong, because I do. I have a conviction, or I have a prosecution impending for growing cannabis for my health. I have kidney failure, and I'm growing cannabis, and it has definitely helped. Now, the law says I can't do it. So I'm faced with the dilemma: do I save my life, or do I obey the law? And that's where the compliance comes in. Some people will be facing death, but will comply and not take a possible way out of it that would save them. And others, like myself, say, no, there are other ways of looking at this, and what you're saying isn't necessarily true. And I'm going to check the authenticity of it for myself, which is what I've done.
Yeah. So you're living the life that you choose on your own terms.
Sure, and I'm not forcing it on anybody else. It's me, mine.
But you're being prosecuted now because you've chosen to do that.
Possibly, yes, possibly. I will be. Yeah.
Yeah. So with regards to communication and relationship, how can that change? So is this the people that are campaigning?
Well, don't be in too much of a hurry in a relationship. People meet and get married in no time at all. And I think that's a great mistake. I think you really need to know each other solidly, in and out, through and through, because we all have little quirks and annoying habits, and you need to see those, deal with them, both in yourself and with the other person. And it's like friends. You're in a relationship with a friend. They're a friend. But how open can you be with your friend? And a lot of us have a great deal of trouble with being open with our friends. We might sort of drop hints, innuendo, suggestions, but to come out straight and say it, how you see it, people find really hard.
Yeah. Fear of rejection, do you mean?
Yeah, I guess that fear of upsetting someone.
Yeah, and
I'm guilty of it myself.
But I think I've noticed that people are definitely becoming more authentic and speaking their truth. And
yes, more and more are, but I'm not sure that it's enough.
And well, it's the start.
For example, let's say that the government make COVID vaccination compulsory. Mm-hmm. What's going to happen? I'm not prepared to risk myself with it, but I'm not going to tell anyone else what they should do. It's their decision. I personally have little faith in a vaccination that's been suddenly produced and thrown at me. I'm not going to test it at all. I don't want to know about it.
Yeah. Well, if that's the case, and perhaps you'd have to have laws are going to be changed. This is what people are going to be. Policies will have to be changed. Human rights policies, and
well, they are at the moment.
There are currently being rewritten, aren't they?
Yes, I mean, there's another thing that's just happened recently, which has upset a lot of my friends. If you send your child back to school, and then that child gets a COVID symptom, they can be taken away by social services and put somewhere, and the parents don't have to be informed. And it's another aspect of control that's being withdrawn from us.
Yeah, when they should be firstly allowed to stay with extended family.
Yeah,
absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt.
I think of the trauma that will do to a child.
Yeah,
and I despair.
So, and also, why was that the first thing written? What to be thought of under unprecedented circumstances?
It's all part, I see, of a plan. I hate to say a plot.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It just seems, yeah.
But I hate to be called a conspiracy theorist.
Well, no, I think we're just having an open conversation about...
It's just one way I look at it.
Yeah.
But it all comes back down to judgments, because the government or the people in authority will use us making judgments about others to manipulate us. And in I come back to it. You do not make judgments about people. You know about them before you make judgments. You may make judgments ultimately. We all do. I know I made judgments when I was going to meet you.
Yeah.
And I've no doubt you did about me. It happens. You can't help it. It's human nature.
Yeah.
But you can control those judgments and say, yeah, that's how I'm feeling about it. But is it real? Is it true? Are they really like that? And sort of work through it.
Yeah, you can think from the
But
heart.
to make an instant judgment and act on that is too hasty.
It's a reaction, trauma reaction.
But it's an 80% majority do that. We've all been guilty of it.
Absolutely.
But once we recognise it, then we're much better able to absorb it into ourselves and look at how we felt about it.
I completely understand what you're saying, but I think with the children, for instance, that is something that could unite everybody. Protecting the children. I do think it will backfire.
Well, it's like the exam thing. That's backfiring.
Look at it. Yeah, exactly.
But there's an awful lot of it going on.
Yeah.
And we're being swamped with it. Absolutely swamped at the present moment. People are confused, frightened. It's affected them mentally. Anxiety predominates now. Lots of people are becoming terribly anxious.
Yes, they are. Their suicide rates are up.
And domestic violence is up.
Literally, so there's a great...
On the aspect of domestic violence, I do take exception always to everybody assuming that it's women who are abused and not men. Because actually the statistics are that more women than men are abused, but not many more.
Yeah, I'm not sure they do think that way anymore, Tony.
Well, when they advertise on television, it's always women.
I think it's definitely I don't
biased.
Watch television.
I could give you an example. There's 400 refugees for women in the UK and 10 for men.
Right, okay, yeah.
It's a patent imbalance.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that goes on.
Oh, I totally agree. I don't think it's like a gender issue.
I see people are equal, men and women, and we should all integrate together. And
and there's levels of abuse, there's psychological abuse, and which it's not just physical, is it?
No, totally not.
Yeah, totally, I agree with that. But these things are being highlighted, and there is compassion. I think ultimately compassion. Even going back to Boris, that with school. He is a human being also that is living in these current... Well, there is that possibility, and he's been through a system that is conditioned, but an institution.
I was part of that system. I went through exactly the same thing. As my book says.
He chose to be at one end of it, or took one dominant role. Or each has come out. You've come out differently. You've chose.
Well, I chose to reject it because I didn't like the philosophy of it. He chose to accept it because, and I'd assume this, the philosophy suited his life purposes.
Yeah, and his family experience and what he'd witnessed. But one wonders if he hadn't experienced that institution.
Yeah, he'd be a very different person.
Yeah.
He'd be very different.
So then that does leave that
there are other things that motivate that, like egotism and the power to be in charge and tell people what to do. They're inherent human failings.
Yeah, and it's insatiable, isn't it? It's
the more you experience it, the more you want.
Yeah.
I think he's just proved himself unable to cope with the situations.
No, he's got to the top, and he wasn't actually thinking about what he was going to do when he got to the top. No. So. But that's being highlighted, though, isn't it? Don't you think? Currently, there are a lot of failings of the system.
I don't know. Look at Trump. He's a similar character, and yet he's got thousands of people adoring him.
Yeah, there are a lot of delusions and illusions on the planet. Yeah.
It baffles me sometimes. But I think what it is there's a horrible expression calling people sheeple.
Yeah, that's really,
which
yeah.
I don't like particularly, but there are a lot of people who can't be bothered to think for themselves. They're quite happy to be led. And so if the people in authority get those that are led and lead them, it leaves everyone else out. And then they feel like they're being punished. So they've got two choices. They either join in or they become isolated. And that's what's happening at the moment, I think. We're dividing, as you said, divide and conquer. As old as the hills.
It is. It's a manipulation. But the awareness is out there. The awareness.
It's a good word you use, manipulation. It immediately makes me think of manipulation in relationships.
Well, one's micro, one's macro, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm thinking of expressions like, if you love me, we'd do that.
Oh, yeah, coercion and, yeah.
The height of manipulation, but very popular. And if you look at a lot of the popular music, I can't live without you, you're the only girl for me, and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's rubbish. It just isn't true, but we've been taught that it is true. It isn't true.
Yeah. Codependency you're talking about, aren't you?
I guess, yes. But yeah. I'm the living example. I lost my wife, and I remember playing a tune and hearing it say, I can't live without you. And I'm thinking, well, no, that's bullshit. It's just not true because it isn't happening. And I'm not sure why it happened, whether it's me, life, or what, but I survived and got on with life. But a lot of people go under. And for them it is true, but it didn't need to be true. It's purely because they were accepting the things that they'd been told about that sort of situation and they couldn't cope with it. So they gave up one way or another.
Yeah, maybe different circumstances. People definitely have different experiences of what love is and what it should be, or as we have in our own birth chart. If you looked at your own astrological birth chart, you would have Venus somewhere. I've got Venus. So we do have different expressions that come into it. But we had a conversation about twin souls, so that spiritual element.
Twin flames, yeah.
Twin flames and soulmates, and so that element of you were always going to meet, that destined kind of.
Yeah, I certainly think that's true.
And so you're saying that's what we should really be?
Yes, looking for our twin flame, absolutely. Yeah. And until you showed me that, I'd never really realised about my relationship. That having lost her, it was like half of me being torn out, and I had to find the other half that I'd lost from myself and put it back into me and rebuild myself. And I've rebuilt myself into what I hope is a better person. Somebody with more empathy and understanding, more emotion.
So the fact that when your wife died, the relationship was ongoing. Her physical presence had been removed.
Yeah.
But that relationship was still evolving.
Oh, it goes on forever. And even now, I think, I wonder what she looks like now, 30, 40 years later.
Yeah.
I've got an image in my head of her, but if she'd lived, she wouldn't be like that. She'd have changed.
Yeah.
So I spend my time sometimes thinking, I wonder where she'd have had her lines and her wrinkles and what colour her hair would be.
So when you first met her, what was it that told you knew she was a person for you?
I don't know.
Do you remember?
I just knew.
Yeah.
It was like a flame that blew between us. She knew as well.
Yeah.
Because we had all sorts of aspects thrown in our way to stop us making it a relationship.
Which is often the case with twin flame relationships.
And we survived it all. We fought it, we survived it, but I believe that most relationships, if they look hard enough, can find that with someone else. I just think we try and make it too easy.
Well, and it's been hijacked by media relations. Everything's been over sexual, porn, all sorts of horrible stuff out there. I mean, I feel really, empathic towards the youngsters.
I do believe you can have sex and not have that relationship, and you still get some sort of a bond.
Yeah, there's that choice. There's absolutely that choice. Yeah.
There's ultimately the ultimate relationship is where that bond of the flame exists between the two of you, and that is totally different to anything else that anyone who's not been there can experience.
And that's what's actually sort of been distinguished out of culture, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's as valued. It's almost sort of a bit.
The most of the cultures I knew, no one ever married for love. They married for convenience.
So even in the African cultures, there was...
Oh, yeah. It'd be his dad's powerful, so if you marry him, that'll make us more powerful. Or he's rich, so he'll benefit our family. Things like that.
Which, just brings more trauma and enmeshment and family dynamics to deal with.
When I married my Papua New Guinea wife, her father tried to sell her to me, and that I had to pay bride price. But he placed a value on her.
Yeah.
And part of the value was the fact that she'd actually already had kids, so that she's got to be a better buy because she's fertile.
Right. Okay.
Which to a Westerner kind of threw me somewhat. It's all in my book, actually.
Yeah.
It threw me a lot and embarrassed the hell out of me because I'm not used to it.
Their directness.
Yeah. What are you going to give me for my daughter?
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Well, it's just straightforward.
Yes, but not one you expect. And I've asked English girls this, and they get quite offended.
What? How much are you going to give me?
Yes. And so I said, "What do you think you're worth? What are you worth?"
Yeah.
And well, that's an affront. I said, "Oh, so you're worthless?
Mm.
You are worth something. We're all worth something."
Mm.
It doesn't
because everything's been commodified, isn't it?
Yeah.
Love, everything has, unfortunately. So what was it if you brought back love into the equation?
Which is what I'm wanting to do.
Yeah.
Love is essential and love is wonderful, and we're never complete without it. Neither a man nor a woman. And it doesn't have to be a man or a woman. I'm not prejudiced in any way whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it can be two men, two women, whatever. It's fine.
Yeah, love is love, isn't it?
Yeah. And I do believe that two men can have a twin flame between them.
I'm sure you're absolutely right. Love is within the heart. So, and it is eternal, and it really, as a celebrant, most funerals, the songs are all about the love that they've experienced, and the love that they've shared, that will be ongoing. Because really, ultimately, that is all that matters.
I've got so many stories about my relationship. We were like one. So, for example, we went to a party in London.
Yeah.
And a man came up to me and said, "Can I sleep with your wife?"
Right.
And I said, "Well, I don't know. It's her business."
Right.
So I said, "Go and ask her." So he went. He was black, I should add. But he came back to me and he said, "No." She said, "No, and she must be racist." And I said, "No, I don't think so somehow. So let's ask her." So we went. I felt that secure in my relationship with her. And she said, no, he's an asshole.
Yeah.
She was sufficiently intelligent as well to be able to defend her corner. And that's really important.
Yeah.
To stand up and know who you are and not be afraid. And it's maybe one of the aspects of the reasons I loved her, that she wasn't afraid to tell me if I was being an idiot.
Well, no, that's got to be an asset.
It's got to be part of the relationship.
Yeah.
But can you see some relationships, the wife or the husband says to the partner, "You're an idiot," and the row that will ensue.
Yeah.
So I stood back from being told I was an idiot and thought, "Oh, am I? Let's have a look at this," and examined it and realised she was right. So acknowledge it.
Yeah, not taking things personally. And
yeah,
I think that's really something important to realise. It often isn't personal, is it?
No, I have many instances where people have really tried to get me riled, and then are completely confused by the fact that I don't.
Yeah.
They've said provocative things to me, and I just smile and say, "Yes, that's okay. I'll go with that."
And it do you find it dampens things? It
totally
disperses all of that angst.
I have a wonderful story about Papua New Guinea. I had to sack a man.
Right.
And in their country, if you sack someone, they're probably going to kill you. And he was standing in front of me, patently extremely angry. And I looked at him and I said, "You're very angry with me, aren't you?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, here, you can have one hit. Go on, how does you like? Hit me." And he just burst out laughing.
Yeah.
And it was done, diffused, gone, finished.
Diffused is the right word. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of drama, unnecessary drama, isn't there? That is residue. And I think a lot of what's going on is like psychically, things are removing. We're being detoxified of traumas.
Well, there certainly is more movement, but insufficient in my eyes, and too slow.
Well, the thing with that though, if you go, like a bullet time a shop or whatever, if we really force things, then they can hold that against you as well. I do think things seem to be just
gently
incrementally, gently, and as and then they will just gain more and more momentum.
Oh, that's part of my nature. I'm impatient.
You've got Aries there somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be why.
But I acknowledge that,
Yeah. I know, it's great.
I want things to happen. And also, I'm 80 years old. I don't want to see
You want to see it.
I want to see it happen.
I don't blame you.
I don't want to wait for it all to go to pot and I die while it's all hellish and stupid. I want to wait to a world that's loving and caring and compassionate and much more community-minded.
Yeah. So, I think that, well, that's what I was saying about the egalitarian, that is what's happening. That I feel that the levelling is occurring. And when you're talking about twin flames or relationship, it's aligned relationships, essentially. There is that spiritual
totally
element. So it is about, and as people are more and more as individuals aligning, then this aspect of being orchestrated by, the universe, the intelligence of the universe, we are going to gather and meet.
Yes.
Where like anything in nature is efficient. It all works efficiently. A plant doesn't grow next to something that's going to kill it, or does it? It grows generally.
It's us, the human race, that have messed up.
With the man-made orchestration of.
And we see it as progress, where I actually see it as regression.
Yeah, you could argue that we've regressed since the Middle Ages, really. We certainly halted our evolution.
The Industrial Revolution.
Yeah. But I do sense a great spiritual awakening and awareness and protection and guardianship of the land and the children. I think it's very heartening what's occurring, really.
Yeah. There's an increase in paedophilia.
Yeah, I'm talking about the response to it this time, because bear in mind, this was happening. This was already happening. This isn't new.
Oh, it's been going on for 100 years, at least.
At least, more than that. Yeah, I've worked in the field. It started
to surface more.
Yeah, people aren't able, whether if they're not able to turn a blind eye, or either way, I think that is irrelevant. The point is, we are in a position now where we can stop this, prevent this from happening,
But-
is these crimes against humanity that have been hidden. But also within that, trust that these children can be healed with love as we bring more and more love into our communities, and actually take back what's been hijacked, so that the children aren't taken by the state. We can have within community, all the youth clubs and things like that were taken, weren't they? There's so many.
It's all gone because it's a way of taking it away, gives the government more control over everything.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. And I'm not saying necessarily the government, it's authority, but I read a report recently which said you get rid of all the people who are causing the problems and you won't win, because further up there are other people who are controlling the people that are controlling us.
Yeah, there is this sort like puppeteers, going on with
that's the exact word, puppeteers.
But we actually, I think we've got more power than your.
You think I'm
No, I'm not saying you're wrong, definitely not.
I'm just a realist.
Yeah.
I see the government as being very controlling, and I fear that if we stand up and make too much of a fuss, something nasty will happen.
Yeah, I do totally agree with that I think we should be building we should be putting these structures, these grassroots structures,
I think
support networks.
I think they are forming now.
Yeah, well, that's what
But just not big enough and quick enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully.
All of this comes round into relationships and judgments.
Yeah. Removing those so that they no longer separate us.
No. I am a realist. I look at life as it is. I don't like it as it is, but I live within it. I don't accept it all. And many aspects of it I'll leave out of my life, or I'll argue against it, like war, which is something that the governments and authority use a lot to win the people over.
Yeah.
And
I
kind of get quite incensed because yes, I'd jump up and go and fight if they asked me. Well, I wouldn't, because I believe that the decision to go to war is immoral. There should be no such thing as war. There's no reason why anybody needs to fight and kill. It's down to other aspects of humanity, like greed.
Yeah, and it's very uncreative and inhumane
and it's going diabolical. It's going to get a lot more terrible and deadly, and the consequences will be our extinction. Perhaps that would be a good thing in some ways.
Well, that's a possibility, but I really think you're underestimating again the power of the people. I really do, actually. Or perhaps they are underestimating.
I have little faith in the power of the people, I'm afraid, because even though I am an activist over cannabis, I'm not sure that we're going to win the whole story, because I have experience where the government say, yes, we'll give you what you want. And they actually take a step to the side and give you something that's similar to what you want, but it isn't what you want because it's been changed to suit their purposes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we could focus on that. We definitely are aware of their shenanigans and their, their mind fuckery.
Are they stupid then, that they know that we know and yet they carry on?
Well,
it confuses me.
Well, I think that, of course they really do believe in their arrogance and their egoic state that they are influences. There was
how sad.
They did a
what sort of people are they?
When they played Planet of the you went to school, you know what kind of people. I know
what sort of people they are.
But they are, as I said, is it possible that we could all, because everybody's been affected in one way or another. They have power, they have accumulated greed and power and influence. But are they, I wonder sometimes, Is it possible that Boris could wake up one day and think, God, I've been such an arsehole?
He's a puppet.
Well, yeah.
He's a puppet being played by people above him.
Yeah, of course he is. And he has a vested interest in that.
Oh, of course, it's worth his while. Economically.
It's, that corruption.
And
that
power.
Yeah. But I do have great faith because in people that have influence, and it might be because of the amount of money they've made. There's a lot of people that could influence things for the better, and I think they're going to start coming forward.
Did you listen to that Charles Eisenstein?
Yeah, Charles Eisenstein. He's brilliant. Yeah, I've listened to him.
We've reached a crossroads, and we've got two choices.
Yeah.
Or we've got some choices, not necessarily two, but we can go the left-hand path to a better life and a more natural life, and a more environmentally friendly life, or we can go the right-hand path and go with being controlled and more control and less money and less fun in life, less enjoyment.
Wasteland and death.
Yeah.
Industrial.
People are still choosing to go on the right-hand path.
Well, just only at this juncture. I think we've only, it's 3 months into this threat. I think people really have been reflecting on their fear of death and transforming. Zach Bush?
I don't want to be brought into the fear of death, because that is one way they control us, the fear of death. We can make life better. Yeah, because that Charles Eisenstein, he says, if you go on the left-hand path, you've got a choice to make. You may have to make sacrifices to take that path, a reduced lifespan possibly, and things like that. Where if you go on the right-hand path, which is the government's line, where death is to be avoided at all costs, whatever it costs.
Yeah, even if you're just kept alive with pharmaceuticals for 10 years, but you're not actually alive,
that's a subject I would like to talk about sometime, pharmaceuticals and how we're being controlled by them.
Okay, so we can save that. So going back to a more loving, hearty, enlivened lifestyle that's in connection with nature. Inclusive.
Yes. And we're not all called hippies or something like that.
Or travellers.
That we're not tarred with a brush, but that we're just the new world order. Not the one the government wants, but ours.
Absolutely. And I do think labels are actually, people are becoming more and more aware of these labels. Even, the nastier ones of narcissists and things, This is the way I see it. They exist, but they're all phases, and they are often trauma-based because of the way that the current system is set up. It's not pro-life for everyone. It's for
they argue it's pro-life. I actually think it's for
benevolent,
poor quality life.
Yeah, exactly. That it's not benevolent. It's a waste.
Why keep yourself alive?
Slavery,
as a vegetable.
Yeah.
Why not go out while you're still happy and able to communicate with your family and relatives and things?
Yeah. So to go back to your initial conversation about being 80, and that you still want to be in a relationship. Well, really, the only option
is that abnormal?
Well, really, you should be in a care home, Tony.
Oh, thanks very much.
And medicated 4 times a day. So, I'm surprised your kids still got you at home.
No, they wouldn't.
They wouldn't dream of it. Exactly.
They wouldn't dream of it.
No, and nor would mine. This is the thing. It's all conditioned. Don't farm out your loved ones. Don't offer your children to the state. Don't offer your elders to the state, because there's so much to be gained from having our communities and everyone's included and healthy and considered and held.
Yes.
Ubuntu. Have you heard of that?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Did they practice anything like that in Papua New Guinea or?
Well, the family.
Generosity.
The family is everything.
Yeah.
They don't have enough to be too generous.
No, but you can be generous in spirit. I think you don't have to just have material.
They are, but I fear that within that generosity was an ulterior motive.
Oh.
But possibly because I was white, they'd think they could benefit from being generous to me.
Okay,
But
got you. Yeah.
there is
yeah.
certainly a generosity of spirit between people who live in the country.
Yeah.
And some of them have been incredibly generous to me when they know that I'm just one of them and I've been absorbed in. Then, yes, they've been incredibly generous.
Yeah.
And would kill for me, die for me. I don't want them to,
but that's like that's like spirit within them. You know,
there's a different spirit to what we have. Very different. I kind of see our spirit as being partly destroyed at the moment.
Yeah.
Many people are without hope.
They've been weakened for a very long time without realizing it. I think, you know, it's unless you've had these adventures or these heroes, you know, it's kind of consumerism.
My adventures have really drawn my attention to the inadequacies of our society and the benefits of theirs. They've got inadequacies too, but many of them have been imposed by colonialism and materialism.
The West, exactly.
So our influence and missionaries, and never miss a chance to have a go at a missionary.
Yeah. I know, it's there's so much in our history that I think's unraveling. But ultimately, we have to find a place to meet, Tony, in our oneness, because these people are still going to be here.
And who accepts what in oneness? Because I know some people who are really open, and at the present moment, if they're too open out in normal society, they would cause offence.
Oh, outspoken people.
Yeah, they're very outspoken, and they're ladies, and they come out with stuff like, I really fancy going to bed with you, and things like that. Well, I love it. I think it's real honesty.
Yeah.
I haven't had anyone say that to me.
Oh, but bless you, darling.
They say it on Facebook, just in general, and I think it's an openness. It's wonderful.
It's also, you know, it's just humanising the naturalness of sexuality.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
but it isn't just about sex
and tainted.
It's about the whole of their lives. I can't cope today, one of them said. I feel like I need support. So all my friends of theirs, we all leap in and support.
Yeah.
But society doesn't leap in and support. It rams us full of pills. It locks us up, puts us away.
Yeah. If it gets the opportunity, it most definitely will. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to go back to the grassroots and connections, ultimately, because there's so much pressure coming down from the top, more truth is being acknowledged by the majority of people. I think I do in my own experience.
I'll go with more truth is being acknowledged.
I think it is.
I think so too, but whether it's a majority, I don't know.
I'm not saying it's a majority, but I feel heartened. I feel that the vibration is higher because of that.
Well, here am I. I'm not afraid to come out and say how I think. And I'm no doubt that one or two people will see it and say, well, that's garbage. And that's fine. It's your privilege, you know.
I mean, we all have what can be, you know, our view, our own unique view, and that's as it should be. I think the most important thing is that we bring forth, we act on that, we self-actualize on that window, on our own individual unique gifts and take on the world and what they might be, and who is it that actually supports us within that. Because, you know, it's about that getting in touch with knowing thyself as well, I think.
Yeah, well, I practice a breathing technique called rebirthing.
Yeah.
Which takes you into your subconscious, and you can learn to find out what you've been hiding from yourself and bring it out into the open and look at it. And I've done all of that. And it's to be true to yourself, the expression we used earlier. You know your faults. I know my faults. I acknowledge my faults. Occasionally I allow my faults. I don't want to control myself. I just want to realize that if I am making a stupid decision or doing something wrong, that I can acknowledge that and stop.
Yeah, and be gentle with yourself if it comes up. Don't judge yourself. Just have compassion for yourself. So it doesn't mean you don't have to be doing anything really wrong. You could just think, oh, I've done that again. Or
I may have used the expression before, but there's a wonderful expression I got through rebirthing. What other people think when they look at you is actually none of your business.
No, it's absolutely true, that one. Yeah.
And it's stood me in great stead in my life.
And also, I think as you align with your own inner rhythms and self-awareness and soul, you can align with your higher self. So wherever you're at, you're there with, your higher self. You are guided so that you're not so influenced by the outer
I'm not influenced
direction
at all anymore.
No, but there's also a part of, for me, what I'm trying to work with is not controlling or the outside. Trusting.
No, don't let it go.
Yeah.
It's got no place in our lives.
That's why I feel like, with these, we've got there's truth seekers, there's various demonstrations going on currently that are coming together really smoothly. I'm not sensing, I don't know if it's just my window, so much rage and anger uncontrolled. I think it's really coming together in a really intelligent, smooth, compassionate and peaceful. I mean, obviously you're going to have incidences and people will be triggered and they will try and trigger, but there's so much awareness coming.
Yes, there's more and more.
Yeah, and people are uniting within that. So it's just everywhere, it's about reflecting on that. And
how long have we been talking?
A long time. So it's probably, what would you like to?
I feel like I'm running out of stuff to say.
Okay.
Today.
Yeah, you're not as talkative as you normally are. So you started with relationships and judgment. So what do you think you've come to, having said all that today? Because we've kind of gone off on a bit of a tangent, but all you need is love.
Yeah. As the words of the song say.
All you need is love.
Recognize what love is.
Okay.
And love isn't sex. It can be part of sex, but it isn't sex.
It's an expression of love, isn't it?
Yes. Love is a deep caring for someone else, a deep understanding of them, a deep unity with them. It's the twin flame where if your relationship is really excellent, you are bonded as one, which makes parting even much harder. I'm played out.
Okay. And on that note, then, that's wonderful. So, yeah, love and relationships. So we need more love, less judgments, and compassion for each other, and faith. Do you think in the faith, infinite possibilities that
faith in oneself more than anything? I have difficulty with the word faith. It always makes me think of religion.
Yeah.
Belief, maybe.
Belief. Yeah, that's the thing. Words, that's another interesting subject, label and the connotation.
Well, I could go through truth and right and wrong and good and bad, and I have trouble with all of them because they're down to the perception of the individual, and I'd like to talk about that sometime.
So maybe next time what we could do, we could go into witness. I practice this. So we actually aren't, there's no words. What about telepathy next time?
Never really experienced it.
No, but yeah, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? I wonder how that Because so much can be misconstrued with words and language. So.
Okay, I think you can stop it now.
Okay.
I will say to you, don't stop it, that I do wonder about telepathy sometimes, because sometimes